Hey guys, it's Chris at Violin Guitars. You're watching another one of my YouTube guitar building videos. In today's video, I am going to cover part 10 of my electric violin build. And what that means is I'm going to be installing the neck into the body. So let's head out to the workshop and get started. In order to install the neck into the body as securely as possible, what I've decided I'm going to do is I'm going to drill 2 holes in this tenon that will be drilled well into this heel portion of the neck. And then I'm going to take these 2 bolts, they're wood bolts, and I'm going to cut off the heads, and then I will insert those into the hole with epoxy and let that dry. And then I will use those sort of like steel dowel pins to secure the neck into the body. And what that means I'll have to do is in the pocket on the body is I'll have to drill corresponding holes for these bolts to insert into. And then I'll probably use a combination of wood glue and epoxy to secure the neck into the body. To install the screws, the first thing I have to do is measure and mark their location on the heel. And then what I'll do is I will use a brad point drill bit that is the same diameter as the screw that I'm going to install. And then I've applied a piece of masking tape to the bit which indicates the depth that I need to drill the hole to. To permanently install the screws, I applied some 15-minute epoxy to the end of the screws and then pressed it into the holes that I had drilled into the tenon. Before I could install the neck, I had to clean some glue squeeze out from the mortise pocket for the neck. Obviously, the screws in the neck will have to be inserted into corresponding holes that are drilled into the body, and those holes aren't there yet. So what I have to do is carefully position the neck and then mark the position of those holes by pressing the tip of those screws into the wood at the back of the mortise. Next, I'll grab a center punch and deepen those holes to make them a little bit easier to see and to accept the tip of the brad point drill bit that I'm going to use to drill the holes. Before I continue with this video, I want to encourage you to click that thumbs up button down below. And if you're new to the channel, I hope that by the end of the video, I'll have earned your subscription. And remember, making these videos takes time and effort, and time and effort means money. So if you would like to help support the channel financially, you can visit my eGuitar Plans web store. There's a link in the description below, or you can visit the Highline Guitars merch store, which is displayed below the description for this video. And there you can make purchases which will help support this channel financially, but you'll also be getting something in return. Oh, and if you want to keep it simple, you can always just click that thanks button down below and leave a tip in the amount that you would like or that you feel is fair. Now let's get back to the video. Now, clamping a violin body down to a workbench is a bit of a chore because the back side of the violin has that same contour shape as the top side. So I have to get kind of creative in how I position the clamps. And then once the body is firmly clamped down, I can drill those holes into the back of that mortise using the same size brad point drill bit that I used when I drilled the holes into the heel of the neck to insert the screws. And again, I'm using a piece of masking tape to mark the depth that I need to drill to. Of course, one might assume all I have to do at this stage is to slop some glue on the tenon and install the neck into that body mortise. However, there's a little bit more work that needs to be done. So the first thing I have to do is dummy the neck into position, and I also added the fingerboard just to see how it was going to look. Then I grabbed a sharp chisel and began to slice wood away very carefully in order to get the neck to fit so that there are no gaps between the neck and the body itself. And that's going to mean doing a little bit of chiseling on that mortise as well as on the tenon in order to get everything to fit just right. So back and forth I go between chiseling, fitting the neck, taking it off and chiseling some more until I can get it just right. And when it comes to neck fit, I've got two tools that I like to use the most. One is my 3/8 inch wide chisel, which I keep razor sharp. And then the other is a flat Japanese Iwasaka file. And I love those files. They are so useful and incredibly precise. So I'll reach for one of those tools depending on what I'm trying to accomplish. And this is how I am able to get the mortise and the tenon to fit perfectly so that there's no gaps between the neck and the body. And then once I have the neck fitting perfectly, that's when I can slop the glue onto the neck tenon and install it into the body. All right, so all the work that you just saw me do is work that I consider to be part of the process of installing the neck. However, before I could actually install the neck, I had to apply the finish. And I actually talked about that in the last episode, which is part 9. And I'll put a link to that episode up above so you can go back and watch that if you want to try to keep things in order. But then once that finish had been applied and then dried, I was ready to install the neck. And that was just simply a process of putting a little bit of glue in the pocket, sliding the neck in, and then clamping it down. And that's where I'm at right now. So I am ready to remove the clamp and the neck will be completely installed and I'll be ready to move on to the next steps. Okay guys, well that's all the time I've got for this episode, and I thought it was going to have to do a little bit more retouching work on the finish where the neck meets the body, but I'm pretty happy with the way this turned out. I think it looks great, so I'm just going to leave it as is. And what that means is in the next episode, which will be part 11, I'm going to start the final assembly. I have no idea how far I'll get because I've never assembled a violin before. I know pretty much what has to be done, but there's a few tweaks that I'm going to be making to the design or to the function of the violin and the parts that are going to be used. So it just remains to be seen where I can get to in episode 11. So hopefully you've enjoyed this episode, and as always, take care, stay safe, and I hope you'll be back for part 11.